Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Eugene's June 6, 2025 program, Economics of Sports and Travel, the Prefontaine Classic. My name is Thomas Hura, and I'm City Club's new president. We're coming to you from our home at the historic Wow Hall in the heart of downtown Eugene, and it is my pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our sponsors and to all of us joining us in person, online, or over the radio. Since 1990, City Club has been dedicated to our founding mission to build community vision through open inquiry. And in accordance with our mission and purpose, we hope to connect people throughout our community and across generations, identities, experiences, and perspectives. You're invited this week and every week to join us in this effort, to share your wisdom and learn something new, and take active steps to make a difference in this city and region we all love. And of course, we can't do this work alone, so a special thank you to our Platinum Community and Diamond sponsors, Eugene Area Chamber of Commerce, serving as a catalytic leader in creating a vibrant and diverse economy that drives economic opportunity and well-being, Kaiser Permanente, which exists to provide high-quality, affordable health care services and to improve the health of our members and the communities we serve. More information is available at www.kp.org. The University of Oregon has helped Oregonians question critically, think logically, reason effectively, communicate clearly, act creatively, and live ethically since 1876. Get more information at uoregon.edu. Lane Community College transforms lives through learning. LCC provides comprehensive, accessible, high-quality educational opportunities that promote student success. For more information, visit lanecc.edu. Thank you to the City of Eugene and to Lane County for their support as well. And a special shout out to our most recent Sapphire sponsor, Summit Bank. We're proud to do our banking at Summit, and we're grateful for the contributions of Summit's employees to our club and community. With that, I will turn the mic over to Joel Corin, the chair of City Club's program committee and the coordinator of today's program. Joel.
Good afternoon to our starting an hour late but still good program on the economics of sports and travel and tourism in Lane County. 5 weeks ago, we did a program on the Prefontaine Classic. The Prefontaine is more than just a track meet, although one of the best in the world. Like other sports events in Eugene, the Classic is an economic driver, bringing tourists and their dollars into Lane County. The nature and extent of the contribution of this race is surprising. It stands out among track and field, and indeed all sporting events. How important is travel and tourism to Lane County and to the economy in general? What might the future hold? In this program, two professionals who pay close attention to the economic development will describe how tourism contributes to the local community now and hear about the predictions in the future. Is it all smooth sailing, or are there clouds on the horizon? J.B. Carney is the Senior Director of Sports and Interim Director of Conventions at Eugene, Cascades, and Coast, where he collaborates with event operators and local partners to attract and host events of all sizes in Lane County. With 20 years in the hospitality industry, J.B. has held leadership roles in sales and operations, has spent the past decade contributing to the Eugene community, and he served 8 years on the Travel Lane County Board, including 2 as chair. Matt Sayer is the Executive Director of Collaborative EDO, a regional economic development nonprofit serving all of Lane County. A native of Springfield and the University of Oregon graduate, Matt brings more than 2 decades of experience bridging innovations, infrastructure, and impact. And he has been responsible for making Eugene a Mozilla Gigabyte City and top 10 up-and-coming tech cities. Matt brings data information, people-first lens to the economic development, especially when it comes to transformative potential of sports in shaping Eugene's identity. We'll start off with J.B. Carney.
Thank you, Joel, for that great introduction. Good afternoon, City Club. Man, it's such an honor to be here. I hope everybody's doing great on this fine Friday. The sun's shining. It's beautiful outside. The weekend is upon us, and it's going to be a truly spectacular weekend. We're going to kick off with the U.S. Track and Field Cross Country Coaches Association Collegiate Athlete Hall of Fame ceremony this Sunday at the Holt Center. It's a free community event. I would invite you all out to come see these special athletes get inducted. And then we jump right into next week's NCAA Track and Field Championships at Hayward Field. So track season is upon us, and I'm excited to be here to talk a little bit more about what that means to our community. I got to start by saying this is a little bit wild being here on stage. As a longtime listener, I never envisioned being up here in front of you, so it's a little bit surreal today to be standing here and talking to you. So with that, I just want to say real quick, a special thank you to the City Club for having us. A special thank you to Matt for joining me and being my teammate today up here. And a special thank you to all of you in the audience for joining us today. It's fun to see one of my partners in crimes and collaborators in the audience, and Joel mentioned earlier that 5 weeks ago we had the opportunity to hear about the Prefontaine Classic. And I was in the room that day for that special City Club. And for me, it was really special to hear from Tom Jordan about the history of that meet and where it started, and really what he and his team were able to accomplish in growing it, and then to hear from Jeff Oliver about, where the meet's at today, what's in store for the 50th anniversary, and then really kind of future lensing what's next for the Prefontaine Classic and for our community. And then to finish it up with our very own mayor, Karin Knutson, and to hear about what that meet means to her as the mayor, as an athlete, and then really what it means to the community. And I think that's a great platform for Matt and I to jump off of today. I want to really pick up where they left off, but not from the lens of the track or from the seats of Hayward Field, but really what this meet means from the booths of our local restaurant, from our hotel rooms, from the cash registers at our grocery stores, gas stations, and retail spaces. We heard from the previous panel why the Prefontaine Classic is so special to our community. Today we're going to explore how events like the Pre-Classic and the robust lineup of track and field and running, as well as other sporting events, affect our local economy and support Lane County's hospitality and tourism ecosystem. Like any good team, hopefully I'm able to set Matt up to talk about this vital and ever-growing sector of our economy. We'll provide a smooth handoff of the baton so he can take us home across the finish line, and hopefully we don't overuse our sports analogies. As I mentioned, we're going to start today with the Prefontaine Classic and really build from there. But before I really dive into the Pre-Classic and what it means to our community, I just want to start by defining a few terms that you'll hear throughout this presentation. First, by a show of hands in the audience, when I say sport tourism, how many people think they kind of have a good idea of what sport tourism is? Perfect. I don't need to go into it. All kidding aside, for the sake of what we're talking about today and for the work that I get to do on a daily basis working for Travel Lane County and the Eugene Cascades and Coast. And by the way, I'll just say I think that personally I have one of the greatest jobs in the world working for Travel Lane County because not only do I get to promote our beautiful destination, which stretches from the sandy shores of the Pacific Ocean all the way up to the crest of the majestic Cascade Mountains, but I get to do it with my sports hat on. And so I couldn't imagine a better job where I get to talk about the beauty and bounty of Lane County, but again, from the lens of sport tourism. And when I say with my sport hat on, I mean that literally because of the haircut that my barber recently gave me. I've got to wear a sports hat most days. For the sake of today's conversation, sport tourism really is amateur sports, so youth and adult amateur sports and one-off collegiate championships. We're not talking about professional sports or regular season college events. We're really talking about youth soccer tournaments, high school volleyball tournaments, masters level rowing meets, and then the robust lineup of one-off championship track and field events. There is, so really, participatory sports. We're starting to talk a little bit more about spectator sports, so events like the World Series and Super Bowl, but for the sake of today, that's not what we're focused on. Sport tourism, in its traditional sense, as of 2023, was a $52.2 billion industry, meaning that throughout the United States, it brought direct spending over $50 million. Compared to spectator sports, those one-off sporting events that we all love to watch, which is a $47 billion industry, it's outpacing it by $5 billion. So it just goes to show that as parents, we're willing to spend whatever it takes to make sure our kids are active, healthy, and staying out of our hair. Combined, these two industries represent $100 billion in impact. So how do we measure this impact? I often get that question. You stand up here and you talk about direct spending, you talk about tax revenue, so how do you really calculate those numbers? So for most destinations, or organizations like ours, we use what's known as an economic impact calculator. For Travel Lane County, we subscribe to Destination International's economic impact calculator. It's one of the most widely used in the industry. I think currently over 300 destinations use this particular calculator, and we're talking about destinations like Chicago, Orlando, Seattle, Portland, Grand Rapids, and Lane County. It allows destinations to tailor based on tax rates and other calculations, and then we're able to plug in numbers like number of rooms sold, number of day visitors, factors like that, and it uses its calculations to tell us what the true economic impact of these events are. So, with that said, we'll dive into the Prefontaine Classic. Truly, as they said in the last panel, a community pillar. It's 50 years of tradition, culture, and identity, a true celebration of Steve Prefontaine and his legacy. It's not just an elite competition, but really a global stage that shines a spotlight on Eugene and Lane County. It's the only U.S. event that's a part of the Wanda Diamond League and Elite International Series. But beyond sentiment and symbolism, it also drives serious economic impact. If we look at last year's Prefontaine Classic, it brought direct economic impact of $932,000 to our community, just shy of $1 million. Broader total impact was closer to $7.6 million. This money went towards hotel room nights, meals, transportation, recreation, and the beautiful thing about these events, right, it's not about the direct impact. What we tend to see is every dollar spent in a hotel, a restaurant, the retail space, gets respent in the community multiple times by employees of those establishments. Beyond Prefontaine Classic, our community, based on 120 years of track and field excellence, has the opportunity each summer to host a lineup of pretty special events. We mentioned the Prefontaine Classic and its 50-year anniversary. Every spring we host the Oregon Relays, where we have 3,000 young athletes from all across the country come into town. This year was the 20th anniversary of that event. The Eugene Marathon, 12,000 runners from all over the country and world come into Eugene to finish at Hayward Field, 18 years. The NCAA Championships, which I mentioned coming in next week, the 20th time to be hosted at Hayward Field. Butte to Butte, which happens every 4th of July, 51 years of happening in this community. And then last year was our 5th consecutive time hosting the U.S. Olympic Trials and our 8th total. These events bring in tens of thousands of visitors, many staying multiple nights. When we look at what that impact is on our local hotels, just for an example, summer's peak tourism season in Lane County. Our baseline hotel occupancy is right around 74% for those 3 months. However, when we have a major track meet in town, that occupancy goes to between 85 and 90%. When we compare that to December and January, which is our slowest time of the tourism season, we're looking at occupancies around 45%. So as you can see, these events provide about a 40-point increase in our occupancy over our slowest time and about a 10-point lift during even our busiest times. Track meets drive record-setting demand across the hospitality sector and create tremendous economic impact. They also promote long-term, sorry, jumped ahead of myself. Apologize, I didn't grab all my notes out here. Beautiful. Well, we'll just, I'm missing a page, but I can improvise. Beyond the track and field meets, though, our community gets to host a robust amount of other events. So outside of Hayward Field last summer, we hosted 31 additional adult and youth amateur events. These events ranged from volleyball, baseball, soccer, and rowing. Combined, they drove another 16,000 visitors into our local hotel rooms. They produced an additional $3.5 million in hotel spend, and they supported almost 1,100 jobs locally. So you can see that even outside of the confines of Hayward Field, sport tourism is a major driver for this community. We have relationships with the highest level of sports, including U.S. Rowing, USA BMX, and the Professional Disc Golf Association. Every winter, our community is lucky to host 2 major volleyball tournaments. These tournaments happen over holiday weekends in January and February, bringing thousands of young athletes from all across the country into our community. Combine these 2 events, produce over $5 million in economic impact. Thousands of young athletes and their fans descend on Eugene, supporting our businesses when we need them most. However, each of these events has the capacity to grow. We just don't have the space as a community to host them. So imagine over 2 weekends, we bring in $5 million in economic impact to local businesses who desperately need it during that time of year. Imagine if we had the space to bring in events throughout the winter months, not just on those 2 special weekends, but again, across the winter months. They also, if we had those facilities, would bring much needed space to our own local residents. Currently, our own local youth don't have the space they need to practice, play, and participate. These spaces could serve as community gathering places for all Lane County residents, and in the need of emergency response and shelter could serve for that as well. So as you can see, sport tourism is bigger than just the economic impact. It has the ability to provide special benefits to our local community, to local residents. In addition to the direct spending, as I meant earlier, these businesses are providing jobs to local Oregonian residents. Over 10,000 people are employed by the hospitality and tourism sector. So these are people who are going to pay income tax, pay property tax, and take those hard-earned paychecks and go out and spend them in our, again, local restaurants, retail spaces. They're going to buy insurance, they're going to bank. Again, they're true drivers of the local economy. Stepping back and looking at events like the Prefontaine Classic, which is where we started, beyond really the direct spending, events like the Prefontaine Classic have also put us on an international map. For so many of these visitors that come into our community, they spend the bulk of their time at Hayward Field or at the venue, right? Our goal as the destination marketing organization is to give them just enough of a taste of our community during their time here watching these world-class track meets to where they say, you know what a special place. I want to go back to Eugene. I want to go back to Lane County. I didn't have a chance to make it to the coast. I didn't have a chance to make it up the McKenzie River to the waterfalls. So it's not just about the immediate impact, but that long-term effect of bringing them into our destination. Show of hands, I'm sure for most of you, you have access to be able to attend an event at Hayward Field, but if you've ever had the opportunity to watch these events on television, not only does the track show really well on TV, but the community also shows really well. I didn't grow up in this part of the country. I grew up in Oklahoma, and I can't tell you anytime a major track meet is on TV, I receive a number of phone calls from people who I know are not track and field fans, who are watching these major events, commenting on how spectacular the event is, how nice Hayward Field is, but also there's often B-roll or footage shown of the local community, and everyone always finishes with, "I've got to make it to Oregon because I've never seen a more beautiful place." These events are being broadcast all across the world, so it's not just a local audience, it's not a national audience. People from all over the world have a chance to see our destination. Anybody in the room remember 2022, we hosted a really small track meet in our community? I can't remember the name of it right now, maybe the World Championships. Couple of unique statistics from that event that I think kind of illustrate the impact that it has on our community. Bagel Sphere, a local breakfast spot. Show of hands, how many people have been to Bagel Sphere? So during that event, just to athletes alone, they sold over 5,000 bagels. That doesn't include fans, support staff, local residents, purely athletes looking to carbo load so they could go out and perform at their highest level. On top of that, in Japan, during the men's marathon of the World Championships, and I don't know if you had an opportunity to see that course. I don't know if I've seen a more beautiful marathon course in all my life. There were more people in Japan that watched the men's marathon final than there are Americans that watch the Super Bowl every year. So if you think about that, that's pretty astounding and tremendous viewership from one country. The cool thing about that particular course and about the World Championships is, to this day, anybody can go out and recreate that race, that course. If you go to London, if you go to Doha, if you go to Tokyo, once the marathon finishes and they remove the barriers, game's over. It's going to be really, really challenging to go out and run the same course that you watch your heroes run. But not in Eugene, because of the use of the river path system and the course they set up. All of those fans in Japan who watched their heroes run the World Championship Marathon can now come back to Eugene and run the same course, staying in our hotels, eating in our restaurants, visiting our favorite restaurants and retail spaces. And what we tend to see with these events is it's not the impact to the metro area, right? A great example last year when we played Ohio State at Autzen Stadium. Our airport had its largest Sunday departure day ever. But what we found is those Ohio State fans weren't just hanging around downtown Eugene and at the stadium. They were seen at their coast in Buckeye Red. They were seen up in Oak Ridge West Fur. We see these visitors really spread out into all communities. Beyond that, the transient lodging tax that they pay every night they stay in a hotel. Just because an athlete or a fan is staying on Franklin Boulevard doesn't mean that there's not impact to our rural communities. Every community in Lane County gets a portion of the transient lodging tax that's collected even if they stay in Eugene. So as you can see, the economic impact of these events, there is the immediate impact provided by the direct spending from the event, from the fans, from the athletes, but the residual effect is much greater. So with that, I hope I've set my teammate Matt up to close the deal, but I really just want to leave you with this thought. 50 years after its founding, the Prefontaine Classic is still breaking records, not just on the track, but in what it delivers to our economy, our businesses, and our people. Thank you very much, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt.
I'm a little taller. Hi, friends. Thank you, City Club of Eugene, for having me. And thank you, JB, for setting the pace. Yep, here we go with the sports analogies. If his talk was the 100-meter dash of economic impact, I'm here to take us on a scenic marathon. My name is Matt Sayer, and I have the privilege of being the executive director of Collaborative EDO. We're a 501c3 economic development nonprofit that serves all of Lane County. Basically what we do is help accelerate the creation of good jobs and then help local people get those jobs. We just heard about the outsized role that major sporting events like the Prefontaine Classic play in our local economy. I'm going to zoom out a bit because beyond the excitement of a stadium crowd and the metal podium lies something just as powerful, a dynamic region-wide hospitality and tourism economy that quietly, and sometimes not so quietly, shapes who we are and where we're headed. So let's start with a simple question. What do you hear when you think of tourism? Is it the cheer of track fans at Hayward Field? Maybe Grateful Dead music playing at the Oregon Country Fair? The whoosh of a mountain biker in Oak Ridge? Or maybe the sound of dancing and cheering kids at the Junction City Scandinavian Festival? Some people call it the Scandi Fest. Actually, when I first wrote this, I thought about sense of smell, not sound. And I thought about the smell of patchouli oil. But that's not my jam. And you can't smell things over the radio anyway, so let's just stick with what you hear. Whatever your jam is, tourism in Lane County is more than a revenue stream. It's an identity, a shared experience. Tourism versus hospitality. Same team, different jersey. Tourism and hospitality are often used interchangeably, but they're not the same. I think most people know this intuitively, so let's just take this as just a little bit of a reminder. Tourism is the act of travel. Visitors coming here for business, leisure, sports, or the many scenic and outdoor amenities that Oregon has to offer. Hospitality is how we welcome the tourists. The Gordon Hotel, Beppe and Gianni's, Cafe Vero, McMinimans, and everyone that works at those places who knows how to recommend a good hike and where to get a hazy IPA and a frosty glass afterward. Tourism creates demand, hospitality fulfills it. Together, they make up about 11% of all jobs in Lane County. That's 1 in 9 working people whose livelihoods depend on making someone else's experience memorable. $1 billion force. So how big is this industry sector? Visitor spending in Lane County topped $1.3 billion last year, eclipsing more than pre-pandemic levels. And it just doesn't flow into hotels and restaurants. It creates public value, about $50 million in local state tax revenue, which supports parks and roads and arts and more. That's about $315 in tax offsets per household because tourists are splitting the tab with us. You know that free summer downtown concert, the upgraded trailhead in Oak Ridge? Part of that was made possible because someone else booked a room here. Maybe they purchased a duck t-shirt or a tie-dye t-shirt while visiting. And we're just getting started. The leisure and hospitality industry is projected to add 2,600 new jobs in Lane County over the next decade. Let's also remember something that Dr. Mike Wilkerson from Echo Northwest emphasized just a few days ago at the Oregon Business and Industry Annual Meeting. Tourism and sports tourism are part of Oregon's traded sector, bringing in net new dollars from outside the region, just like software does, just like timber does. As Dr. Wilkinson put it, it's the most fun you can have while strengthening the economy. Innovation fueled by visitors. One of the most exciting aspects of tourism is its power to drive innovation. Take Richardson Sports in Springfield. They make high-performance headwear worn around the world. Their success, partly rooted in this region's deep ties to athletic and sports tourism. Or consider the Bowerman Sports Science Center at the University of Oregon, where cutting-edge research into human performance happens under the very stadium that attracts thousands of visitors. And then there's the Phil and Penny Knight Campus for Accelerating Scientific Impact, a more than $1 billion investment in accelerating scientific discoveries and innovations that help improve lives, sparked in part by the brand and culture that grew out of being Tracktown USA. These aren't just tourist attractions. They are economic engines ignited by the spark of our region's DNA. Our sports and visitor economy is part of an even larger innovation ecosystem. From the U of O's Warsaw Sports Marketing Program and sports product design to local apparel companies like Sport Hill. I used to go to their summer sales quite a bit. I don't know if you guys do that, but good deals to be had. This intersection of tourism, innovation, and entrepreneurship helps define Lane County's economic edge. Okay, let's talk youth sports. So if duck football games are the fireworks, youth sports are the campfire, smaller, steady, and surprisingly powerful. Weekend tournaments for soccer and volleyball and wrestling consistently fill our hotels and restaurants. Nationally, participatory sports tourism has reached, and I think JB gave this stat too, $52 billion, and that's according to ETA's 2023 State of the Industry report. Then here in Lane County, it's kind of recession-proof. Families might skip a vacation, but they still travel for their kids' games. Think about that. That's why there's growing momentum behind it, developing a new indoor multi-use sports complex, something that could attract events all year and serve local residents too. Think of it as economic development with a scoreboard. Want proof that it works? Just look at Medford's Rogue X complex. In its first year alone, it generated over $6.75 million in economic output, supported 43 major events, and helped pay off nearly 9% of its construction cost. And that's not even the most impressive facility in the Northwest. Spokane's Podium has set a national bar for performance, drawing major events thanks to its inclusion of an indoor track. An amenity so in demand, they're encouraging our region to build one too, just to help with meet overflow. Spokane's success has been so strong that they're now expanding their airport to handle even more tourism-related growth. Lane County could do the same with the right collaboration. And it's not just sports. Career-focused hospitality programs on the Oregon coast, for example, are drawing young people in. From seafood butchery to culinary competitions, they're building pride in place and creating new reasons to stay, thrive, and lead locally. Local benefits too. When we build for visitors, we also build for ourselves. Mountain biking trails in Oak Ridge aren't just for tourists. They're part of a story of rural reinvention. That covered bridge in Cottage Grove, beautiful on postcards, but also a place for kids to bike to school. How about Florence's Old Town, maybe Eugene's downtown Riverfront Park, even the planned airport expansion? All of these began as visitor-facing investments. They now double as key quality of life features for the people who live here every day. Hospitality is human. And here's what we can't forget. Behind every hotel check-in, every restaurant meal, every local recommendation is a person. Like Sarah Raleigh in Florence, who owns a boutique hotel. When bookings dropped earlier this year, she didn't give up. She adapted, rebranded, and found a way forward. She repositioned her property as a boutique coastal getaway with fresh marketing and a curated guest experience that emphasized local charm and off-season value. Or take the story of the hotel manager in Eugene, who once personally drove a stranded guest all the way to the coast and back because their rental car had fallen through, and it was a lifelong dream of that guest to see the Pacific Ocean. We're pretty lucky to live this close to the ocean. But that spontaneous act of kindness turned a travel mishap into a lifelong memory. Or the tourist who came here for a race, then decided to move here, one of many who turned a visit into a new life chapter. These aren't just stories. It's actually how Oregonians roll. And thanks to work of groups like Lane Workforce Partnership and the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association, supported by national investments from the U.S. Department of Labor, we're seeing new efforts to help hospitality workers thrive. On the coast, for example, a recent study highlighted how thoughtful support for job equity, quality, and career pathways can make a difference, not just for workers, but for entire coastal communities. Real people doing real things that build resilience and connection. All right, here's the kind of the setup part. What's next? If we want to keep the momentum going, we need to think bigger and plan bolder. Looking ahead, we have many local opportunities. How about that new facility to host winter sports conferences? I know my two boys will really welcome that. An airport expansion. EUG, which serves residents of 6 counties, it's not just for Eugene, it's for a lot of people across 6 counties, reached its capacity several years ago and needs to be expanded. Have you tried to find a parking spot lately? I'm not alone in that, I'm sure. So plans for a new concourse and 8 new gates will double the size of EUG and are projected to be in use immediately upon completion once a funding pathway is identified. When expanded, the annual economic impact associated with EUG will more than double from the current $1.6 billion it generated in 2023. What about Glenwood? With past calls for proposals drawing strong developer interest, development in Glenwood could be a real gem, linking visitors to trails and breweries and the Willamette waterfront in one of the region's most transformational redevelopment sites. Then there's also the Eugene waterfront. Right down the river from Glenwood is the historic steam plant, which is being reimagined as a new hub for dining and culture, anchoring Eugene's growing riverfront district and giving both locals and visitors another reason to explore the heart of Eugene. All of these trends lead to one outcome: a Lane County that's more vibrant, welcoming, and sustainable for everybody who lives here. Final thoughts, and then I kind of do that baton pass back thing. So JB, he gave us a look at the finish line, the glory of game day. I tried to give you a look at what happens after the race, how those moments ripple outward to small towns, small businesses, and small gestures of welcome all across Lane County. Tourism and hospitality aren't just part of our economy. They're part of our vibe, how people talk about us, our collective reputation. They tell the world who we are and remind us of who we want to be. Let's keep extending that welcome, one visit at a time, one warm greeting, one neighbor, new or old. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. I challenge you all to think of some wonderful questions for Matt and JB. We will begin our Q&A in just a moment, but first a special thank you to our award-winning public radio station KLCC FM 89.7 for airing City Club programs on Mondays at 7 p.m. For those listening at home or in the car right now, your household is one of several thousand tuning into City Club on KLCC, and we really appreciate that you're here. You can also find all recent City Club programs archived on KLCC as well as on our YouTube channel and as podcasts. We'll take a brief break before returning for questions.
Is that mic on, Jim?
Okay.
There you go.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Kelly Johnson, City Club member. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was really great. I have always been really proud of Tracktown and the caliber of events that we draw here to Eugene, but I know that they have choices and that these events could choose other communities. So how do we maintain having these caliber of events come to our city?
Great question. Thank you, Kelly. I mean, yeah, it's a reality. We touched on it. You know, we host some of the biggest and best track meets in the world. We have a over 100-year legacy that dates back to, you know, guys like Bill Hayward, Bill Bowerman, Bill Dellinger, Steve Prefontaine. And so that combined with this world-class facility, I don't know if there's a finer venue anywhere in the world, and the fact that they were able to take this world-class facility and drop it in the middle of a beautiful campus, a beautiful neighborhood, it creates this magic atmosphere. But I think the reality is this is active, it's not passive. We can't say, hey, you know what, we've worked hard for 100 years, we're just gonna sit back on our laurels. To your point, we bid every year on most of these events with the exception of the Prefontaine Classic. So we are truly competing with other communities. And so, you know, I think what's always made Old Hayward and New Hayward special is the facilities are great. You know, our know-how in running quality meets is fantastic, but it's truly the fans and the community. It's the people that show up, and you'll hear it at the Hall of Fame ceremony this weekend, where athletes from other schools from all across the country will talk about the Hayward magic and the fans that cheered them across the finish line to glory. And so I think in order for us to continue this on this success, we all have to engage, whether it's buying a ticket and showing up into the stands to cheer, volunteering, signing up to be a meet official. If you are a business owner, supporting and welcoming these athletes and fans from all over the country. So great question, I love it. You know, it's ours to lose, if you will. We have what it takes to continue to host into the future, but we just have to protect and engage in the sport.
I'll take it from an arts angle, just for you. So as I relate to this, I think about music, and I think about how we exist in between San Francisco and Portland, or some might say San Francisco and Seattle. And we do get some great musical artists here who stop through either, you know, at the McDonald or maybe the Cuthbert Amphitheater. And probably like you, I enjoy some amazing shows at both those venues and others, and in the Wow Hall, having grown up here. But as I look to the east, and I'm also aware of large venues over in Bend, for example, I recognize that it is a math equation, and that artists and probably their promotional companies are drawn to venues with more seats, and it's, you know, an objective comparison that way. So as I think about a future where we continue to get great musical acts and other artists in many other forms, I think that we need to think about that basic math to continue to get the artists that we all enjoy so much. So more seats, bigger venues, probably is the math of the game.
Randy?
Randy Prince from Eugene. A few months back, I was surprised to see an article that said, in spite of all the good things you said, JB, about Eugene Springfield, that some of the coaches and athletes for the big summer meets, I think it was the NCAA, unless it was the national championships, were getting tired of coming to Eugene. It was something like there wasn't enough to do, as in a big city, or we're too far away. I wonder if we can't, in spite of our good airport, we can't move the city any closer to the rest of the country, but could you summarize what these grumblings of discontent were about, and what you see us doing to keep the big meets coming to Eugene in the summer?
Really, really good question. Thank you for putting that one out there. And I think the reality is anytime you host a major event, right, it goes back to the old 80-20 rule. You know, you're never going to make everyone happy, and so certainly with the NCAAs or bigger track meets, there are some challenges at times. I mean, I think there's more positives than challenges. I think, you look at the venue we have, you look at the intellectual capital around the sport and our ability to produce top caliber meets. You look at televised time, right? If you host, say, an NCAA championships in Austin for East Coast audience or even Central, and because of the heat in June, you're running later. And so, you know, Eugene makes sense for a lot of reasons. We are, however, undeniable, tucked away in the far northwest corner of the country. So logistically, if you're traveling from the East Coast or the Southeast, it's a longer trip. I'm sure people think there's a bit of a home field advantage maybe for the University of Oregon and hosting year in and year out. And the other reality is, as these events have grown, it's no longer contained to just Eugene and Springfield. What we often see, we're involved a lot in helping find accommodations for athletes, coaches, and fans. And we're honestly seeing these events start to push visitors, you know, to Corvallis or Salem or going south to Roseburg. And so the reality I alluded to earlier, the need for indoor multi-use space to really drive a vibrant year-round economy. And that's a part of the answer too. Sometimes some of the pinch because of the size of the events can be the number of hotel rooms. I spent most of this week working with coaches and support staff from all over the country, these schools coming in, trying to ensure everybody's taken care of. But the reality is if we can create that vibrant year-round economy through a multi-use indoor space like Matt and I both kind of talked to, that attracts new developers, right? Because they know they can make money year-round and not just during the summer, during major track meets or during the fall with football season. But year-round, they're going to have the opportunity through these visitors to support their businesses and to employ their staff.
JB, could I interrupt for a second? And could you describe what would be contained in this new facility? Maybe where it would be, how it would be financed, how far along we are?
Well, I think the
Or,
conversation...
or is it still a dream?
I mean, it's probably beyond the dream stage. It's a conversation that's been happening for a lot of years now, 7 or 8 years, and it's been led at different times by different groups. Location has changed based on opportunity. One of the most recent conversation, and it's still part of the conversation, is the Lane Event Center is undergoing master planning, and so a part of that design, or some of the designs that have been put forward in the exploratory phase, have included a regional multi-use facility. I think with a space like that, the goal is really making it as multifaceted as possible. So a space that could host youth volleyball, youth basketball, pickleball. It could be a space to gather and walk as a community during the cold, dark, rainy months. It could be flat floor space for events like this or for conventions. In case of an emergency, it could be a facility for emergency response.
Okay.
But there have been multiple construction feasibility studies done on potential indoor multi-use sports space and or convention spaces over the last 7+ years. So it's definitely moved beyond dream stage, but there hasn't been a specific location identified, or we haven't gotten deep into the design.
Thank you.
work. Yeah, you're welcome.
That's very helpful.
So going back, you know, having more hotels and restaurants certainly takes a little bit of that pinch off of some of these events. And so, yeah, it's, I'd love to say that it's perfect and everybody, you know, is 100% satisfied, but you know, it's really tough to make everyone happy, regardless of whether it's your home or 1,000 athletes and coaches coming in from all across the country. But we do our best, and to be honest, I mean, I don't know of too many communities that could do it as well as Eugene does. we roll out the red carpet for these athletes and fans, but there's always opportunity to improve.
I'm just going to carve off just a small piece of that, which is the
Sure.
air travel part. I run into this from time to time as it relates to recruiting new employers to the region, and there sometimes is a conversation around a lack of perceived direct flights, and there is some truth to that. And then sometimes I tell them, well, it used to be a lot harder to get here. You had to come on a trail, but. But I think that with the airport expansion, which is significant, that's being discussed in our community, one would expect more direct flights to destinations that are further east than we currently go. So is air travel here perfect? No. Is it better than it used to be? Absolutely. Will it get better in the future? Sure looks like it.
Next.
How you doing, gentlemen? I'm Lanny Ball, City Club member, and I'm from Cottage Grove, Oregon. I've been in Oregon 44 years, and I'm an Uber Lyft driver, and I get a lot of feedback. And I hate to put this one up because I see the overall venue for the people coming in, and the rating of Eugene nationwide is around number 7, somewhere in there. And anyway, the input I get from a lot of them, especially during the world event, one of the gentlemen told me, he says, Lanny, is great. I was here for a week or 2 weeks, spent over $10,000, and I won't come back. Ooh, I said, ooh, my goodness. And then a woman from the high school championships come in, and she says, it was all about the high-priced hotels and the gouging, so to speak. And she says, well, we're going to look for another venue. And so it just kind of, it hit real hard. And I thought, wow, could the city, and I don't deny them making their money, because that's our deal, to make money. But can't we do anything like during events? Can the city subsidize to lower the rates? Can, some way hold the rates down just a bit, and still, some way. It's just hurting in reputation-wise. And I get them from all over the world, Japan, Africa, Asia, all over.
Thank you.
I see people.
Matt?
I feel you, and I think in the back of the Uber, you hear a lot of raw and straightforward commentary. My degree is in economics. I sort of relate to the world in a supply and demand intersection of lines, and from what I know about our region, we have too few hotel rooms. So as a function of that, when there's a lot of demand, it pushes the prices up, and for hoteliers, they charge more during the boom times because there are times during the winter, like we're talking about, where I think you said the vacancy rate is or the occupancy is like in the 40%. Yeah, so that sort of thing. So during the winter, as you know, it gets kind of dark around here, and we don't have all the vibrancy that we should as it relates to sporting events. And so if we had more hotel rooms, it would spread the supply around sufficiently so maybe some of the overall prices wouldn't be as high. Will it change it from whatever the market rate is to something significantly lower? Hard to say, but certainly if there were more hotel rooms than there are today, it might create an opportunity where the prices would be a little bit lower for everybody.
Sharon?
Sharon Reed, City Club member, longtime volunteer through the trials and the World Championships. And my question is, after the World Championships, were there any larger lessons learned on behalf of the businesses, the restaurants, the different venues that we have learned? Maybe should we be able to do another one in the future?
Really good question. And first of all, thank you for volunteering and supporting. we could maybe bring Jeff up from Tracktown to talk about lessons learned from their end. But I think the one thing I'll say, and earlier I encouraged everyone to get involved and to support, and I think oftentimes with these big events, and especially the World Championships, right? But we tend to see it sometimes with football or other events where, you know, the world is coming. You know, you need to get out of town. And sometimes that get out of town is for financial gain, right? I mean, I certainly know people who take advantage of these big events and they rent out their house for a week and they take their family on a vacation. And what I would say is do the opposite, right? Just because there's a world-class track meet happening at Hayward Field, the reality is those fans and athletes spend the bulk of their time in the stadium, right? And the meets end late at night. And so as a resident, go to the meet, still go out and support your local restaurant. Stick around, enjoy. It's a celebration. I mean, we have worked hard. There aren't too many places in the world that have a reputation like we have. A lot of communities work long and hard, and they spend a lot of money to build a destination reputation. We are known as Tracktown USA, the running capital of the world, the birthplace of Nike, right? I mean, we've worked hard, and we should celebrate that and take part in it and not fear these events and run. I mean, I love the World Championships and the fact that at a cafe, I could hear, you know, Japanese, Italian, German, all being spoken in the same spot. I mean, for a town of our size, for a region of our size, I mean, we are a global destination when it comes to sports. And so to your point, I think lesson learned from us is, like, don't listen to messages will get out about, you know, you're going to deal with traffic, you're going to deal with crowds, and it's not the case. I would encourage you to do the opposite of what the message is and to embrace it and to get out, and you're still going to be able to get into your favorite restaurants and coffee shops and vineyards, and you're probably going to have a really cool experience sharing that with somebody from across the country, across the world.
As you folks know, the World Championships have only been held in the United States once, and that was a couple years ago here in Eugene. Thomas?
Thomas, here, I think I might be our last question. And simply, it may be reiterating a little bit, but given that Eugene is such an attractive place for so many people to be, there's a sizable contingent of Eugenians that are skeptical about sports. They're either just not particularly interested, or they think that it's overemphasized. Can you speak to what these events do to benefit those people who might not even believe that they are benefiting from it?
I get that view. Football's not for everybody. And what I would say to that is, what are the things that they do value? Maybe it is that trailhead. Maybe they're into mountain biking in Oak Ridge. Maybe they appreciate more amenities down in Cottage Grove. And the fact is that those things are in part paid for by tourists. So it's sort of like we get a discount on the good stuff when the tourists aren't around. And so I think that that's quantifiable. I think that's objectively good. And hopefully there's something in it for everybody by hosting friends from around the world.
Yeah, I would just add to that. One of my favorite sayings is that if you build a place that people want to visit, it becomes a place that people want to live. And if it's a place that people want to live, it's a place that businesses have to be. And I can speak to that truth because I first came to Lane County as a visitor who appreciated the wonderful outdoor recreation, the trails we had within city limits, the easy access to biking, the arts and culture, the food and beverage scene. And the reality is if you look at, say, the restaurant industry, locally 30% of local restaurants' revenues tend to come from visitors. So if you think about an industry that relies on razor-thin margins and we remove the visitor economy, some of the favorite places we like to go with family and friends to celebrate, for our morning coffee, to enjoy the arts, may or may not exist without that. We also touched on the transient lodging tax earlier, and the fact that just because a visitor stays in the metro area, which is where the majority of our hotel rooms are, other communities benefit. Our arts and culture benefit from transient lodging tax, the Lane County Historical Museum. So these visitors, yes, sometimes it's an inconvenience on a game day to deal with traffic, although it's a great time to go shopping at Costco. You know, World Championships or marathon, right? Maybe I live in South Eugene, so it's a little tricky to navigate, but there is so much value in what they bring to our community and the quality of life they provide for our residents. And the reality is, you know, if we were able to build an indoor multi-use sports facility, that one of the biggest benefactors is not the athletes and fans coming in from out of town on the weekends, right? It's our own kids, it's each of us who are able to leverage that space when it's not in use for events. So yeah, I know it's tricky sometimes to navigate all the visitors that come in for these major events, but they truly provide tremendous value and benefit for all of Lane County.
Thank you. We're running out of time. Now Thomas will come back up. All right.
That's all the time we have for today. Please join me in thanking J.B. Carney and Matt Sayer. This has been our June 6, 2025 conversation at the City Club of Eugene. We have a special program next Friday, June 13th, titled Telling Our Collective Story, Local History Museums. We'll have the chance to hear from Keith Lose, the Executive Director of the Lane County History Museum, and Madeline McGraw, who I know as Maddie, the Curator of the Springfield History Museum. It'll be a great forum, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. And I want to give one final shout out to the Oregon Ducks softball team for making it all the way to the Women's College World Series in Oklahoma City. It was an outstanding season, and those coaches and players are outstanding role models in our community. Thank you all. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time at the City Club.